Creed 3 marks the latest film in the Rocky and Creed franchise, so today, let's rank them all from worst to best. Hey everybody, my name's Justin here. I try to watch everything that hits theaters and on streaming services. If you guys are like me, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below and click that bell notification for more up and coming content. Leave your list down below. How would you rank all 9 of the Rocky and Creed films from worst to best? Coming in last place is Rocky 5. It's been a long time since I've seen Rocky 5, and when I just recently watched it, I've always remembered everybody thinking that it was just absolutely ridiculous and very corny. But what does not work for me in this film is the storyline. Rocky taking on this young boxer, Tommy Gunn, and then him wanting more. I feel like he's living in the shadows of Rocky, and then the street fight at the end. There's so many moments in here that make it not feel like it's Rocky. From him and his finances to beating Tommy Gunn up in the streets. There's a lot of potential in this film to have a deep story. That strained relationship with his son and taking on this boxer and dealing with retirement. Really want to box again. There's potential for a really deep storyline, but it all just feels very weak. From the writing to the characters in here to how Rocky is portrayed, it's absolutely bad. This is easily the worst Rocky film. Coming in 8th place is Rocky 3. This is where you start to see Rocky really just change as a character. From the first and second film, I feel like Rocky's just completely different. His ego is getting in the way. Sylvester Stallone was becoming more popular around this time anyways, so it makes sense for this character to kind of change, as Sylvester Stallone was heavily involved with these films. So the character is not as likable as he used to be, and this is where the franchise starts to dive into some more of those silly moments. We have Thunder Lips in here and Clubber Lang. The film is just really focused on fighting, and there's really no emotional connection to it. When it wants to be emotional, they are very brief, and then they're ripped away from us to have more fighting scenes and more of Clubber Lang and Rocky fighting and them preparing for a fight. It's ridiculous. I've always thought the transition from 2 to 3 is where the franchise kind of just started to fall apart and dived more into those corny moments and more epic montages and just trying to be bigger than the previous films without actually having endearing moments for these characters and added development for them. So Rocky 3, that's like the franchise starts to kind of just turn away from what it used to be, and unfortunately it's not the most memorable one. Coming in 7th place is Rocky 4. Rocky 4, it's not a very good film. It's got robots and Dolph Lundgren in here as Drago.
If he dies, he dies.
But I would be lying if I said it wasn't entertaining. The montages in here, the terrible one-liners, Drago and Rocky and all of those fighting sequences, it's way over the top. Yeah, there is some those emotional moments when Apollo Creed passes away, because he was a big part in this franchise. So I do feel that part of the movie, but the robot and the fight scenes and the montages, it's a product of the 80s, and that's what makes it not the worst film, just because of how entertaining it is. It's one that you get hyped when you watch it. You want to hit a punching bag. You just feel very energetic when you watch this movie. It's not good by any means, but it's not absolutely bad. Coming in 6th place is Rocky 2. After the first fight with Rocky losing to Creed, they fight again in the second film. And I did like seeing that again and watching Rocky trying to redeem himself. But all the moments of him wanting to retire, I feel like came way too early in the franchise. I think that could have been explored a little bit later on in the film, because it often is explored and feels very repetitive when it is brought forth within the movies. But Rocky 2, I like it. It's not as deep or as good as the first Rocky film. There's more development for Rocky and Adrian this time around, and I love that relationship as it starts to really grow and we get an understanding of this couple. The fight sequences are filmed really good in this film, and a movie that almost has like the same scenario as the first film, Rocky preparing for a fight against Creed. It offered some new elements to it. It is a pretty good sequel, and having Apollo Creed returning in this film solidified him as a strong character in this franchise. Coming in 5th place is Rocky Balboa. This is a solid conclusion to the Rocky films, but this worked as a conclusion. Yeah, it spends a little too much time reminiscing about the past with the characters in Paulie and Rocky, but it does work as a way for Rocky to have one final film. It works as that final movie, and him in his older age, preparing for this fight, it's still a character that you root for. It feels more grounded than the previous sequels, as those dived into those really cheesy moments. Here it feels more realistic. You have some really great speeches from Rocky. And although at times there's a lot of reminiscing, that nostalgia for Rocky in this film, you understand what was important in his life. And even in the Creed films, I love that they still talk about these characters, Adrian and Paulie and Mickey, and how important they were in the film. But even though these films were centered around Rocky, all of the characters had important parts in the series, and we understand that within this movie. The montages, the fight sequences, they're all handled pretty well, especially for his age and the time that it was released since that 5th film. Now, a lot of time has passed, but they still understand the tone of this film and kind of match it to that original film. So I appreciate the tone and how grounded this movie is, and understanding the nostalgia and reminiscing about the past, even if it's a little too much in here. Coming in 4th place is Creed 3. I really liked Jonathan Majors in here and Michael B. Jordan's direction. The lighting is really good. The fight sequences are impressive. The way that you feel that impact from the punches within this film makes it feel really epic. There are times where these characters aren't as fleshed out as other entries in this franchise. At times, Damien's rise to fame feels really quick, and Creed's return to boxing at times feels a little bit underdeveloped, but I love that feud in here. It feels very classic. There's a lot of expressing your feelings and speaking up and realizing what it means to be a father and having a family. That is an appropriate part of a story for Adonis Creed in the 3rd film. But Jonathan Majors, he's ripped for this role, really challenges Adonis in the film. Overall, Creed 3 was really good. I like Michael B. Jordan's direction. It's not as deep or personal as other films. I still think it does work. Coming in 2nd place is Creed 2. It was so awesome to see Drago return in this film with his son, and the fight between him and Adonis, and having Rocky in the movie as well. This is a great way to continue from that 4th film and that story. Not obviously having those corny moments in here, but I love revisiting these characters. Having a director change in here didn't really feel that different. It still feels very grounded, and the tone is very mature as well. The fight sequences are handled pretty well. It does move a little bit slow in the first half of the movie, and becomes a little bit predictable how early on the first fight is between Adonis and Drago, and what we're going to get in the second half of the movie. But Creed 2 still is an epic film. It still packs a punch, and it was so cool to see these characters return. Coming in 2nd place is Creed. I recently watched Creed for the first time in a long time, and I forgot how good this movie is. It's less on the opponents in the film. I feel like the opponent in here just really in the background for most of the film, because this movie works as a way to develop the relationship between Rocky and Adonis, understanding the past and this character, and he wants to build his own legacy, not rely on his father, but also having the good storyline for Sylvester Stallone in here. And his nomination for Best Supporting Actor was well deserved because he gives a really good performance in here. I love looking at this character. It seems like a very smart way to have a spin-off of a character that was very important to the franchise and having his son in the film. But coming in first place is Rocky. This is one of the best sports films. It's a film that's not truly reliant on the sport itself. It's more focused on characters and the dialogue between them. The writing is very mature. I love looking at the character of Rocky and Adrian and that slow relationship. It feels like it's not fastly paced at all. Watching Apollo Creed just trying to challenge somebody, and we got the Italian Stallion, and that underdog story is classic in here. Rocky's trying to prove that he's got what it takes. He believes in himself. All of that builds to a really crowd-pleasing film. This film is focused on the writing for the characters, developing them along the way, set in a movie with boxing within it. And so the boxing is just a way to add more to these characters as Rocky is training and believing in himself and falling in love with Adrian. This is one of the best sports films, not only one of the best sports films, but also one of the best films ever made. It's deserving of its Best Picture win. Sylvester Stallone is really good. I love the dialogue, how slow it is at times, and the score. The score is absolutely iconic. If people have not seen the Rocky films, they probably heard the score. It is so good within here. It easily hypes you up. It makes you cheer for these characters. Rocky is so likable, and unfortunately, he has changed kind of throughout the movies. More his ego, and he's become more popular. He had a lot of money, but when you look at this first film, the character is much smaller compared to the other versions of him, and that's what I appreciate about this film, is that he just feels like an average person, and an underdog in that story is so good. So there you guys have it, my ranking for all 9 Rocky and Creed films. Make sure to leave your list down below. How would you rank them? Let me know in the comments section, and stay tuned for more up and coming ranking videos. My name is Justin Watches Movies, and you guys stay classy.